American woman, and she makes the coolest bags. And I've got one here. This isn't the bag that I'm going to recommend here, but it's part of the same family. This is what they call the closer weekender. It's basically the coolest suitcase you can find. It's absolutely gorgeous. $3,500. Very, very nice.
Very cool. Great gifts. Dad, warning, you're not getting the watch from me, but appreciate your time, Paul. Thank you so much. Love the range of gift ideas there. Have a great weekend and a happy Father's Day. And happy Father's Day to all of you watching out there this weekend. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now. Good Friday morning. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off today. Right now on Morning News Now, melting away. An extreme week-long heat wave is setting more records across the West. The temperatures hitting the high 90s in triple digits from Wyoming to Arizona. Now experts are warning of an increased risk for wildfires. A closer look at the record-breaking heat and when it could end. COVID concerns. Health officials are now urging more people to get vaccinated in hopes of avoiding a new spike in cases from the Delta variant. We'll show you where we are in the vaccine rollout and the new plan from the Biden administration to potentially prevent another pandemic. Open for business. The European Union is finally allowing American travelers to visit that part of the globe, and you may not even need your vaccine to do so. We'll break down the updated travel rules. And celebrating Dad. This Sunday is Father's Day, a time to celebrate the man who helped raise you. But unfortunately, we all lead busy lives, and some of us may have forgotten to grab that ever-important gift. Don't worry, we got you covered. Our Father's Day expert is here later in the hour with the best last-minute gift ideas for your pop. We start with the extreme heat wave impacting tens of millions of Americans out west days before the official start of summer. Those record-breaking temperatures are now creeping east, causing dangerous conditions. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin is in Las Vegas, where the extreme heat is expected to stretch into the weekend. Aaron, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. I'm here on the world-famous Las Vegas Strip. You can see behind me, the sun's not out just yet, but it's already in the 90s, expected to rise to 114 degrees today, just 3 degrees shy of the all-time record. And this heat wave extends far beyond Nevada, affecting tens of millions of Americans across the West. Like much of the West, Sin City is sizzling.
It's extremely hot.
We're really hot. I'm sweating right now.
The Las Vegas Strip hitting a sweltering 114 degrees, shattering an 81-year daily record.
So hot.
It's hot and humid. Her sandals melted yesterday.
Your sandals melted.
Yes. This may be a real record-breaking year.
California's also feeling the heat. In the desert outside of Los Angeles, 123 degrees, tying the record for an all-time high. Death Valley reaching a scorching 128 degrees, shattering a record set in 1917.
This is early to have this much of a heat wave.
The temperature is ungodly hot.
California now urging residents to conserve power and declaring a state of emergency.
We have fans, and that's all. We just keep the windows open.
After a week of relentless heat, records were smashed in several western states. In Arizona, Phoenix hitting 118 degrees. A temp only reached 18 other days since the city started recording. In Colorado, Denver hitting triple digits for the third day in a row.
I've never seen an early June like this.
The heat wave now reaching the Midwest. Higher than normal temperatures seen in Omaha, Tulsa, and Kansas City. Some of the most extreme heat hitting regions already dealing with devastating droughts. Conditions now creating high fire danger across the West. Firefighters preparing for what's to come.
These summers are just, they're not typical anymore.
A dangerous late spring heat wave rewriting record books with millions waiting for relief.
Scientists say we're likely seeing more of these heat waves before the summer's over, so we need to be prepared. They recommend that you try to limit the amount of time that you spend outside when it gets this hot. Also wear light and light-colored clothing, as well as stay hydrated. Drinking water is so important when it's this hot out. Joe?
All good advice, Aaron. Thank you so much. More on what weather we can expect this weekend and when it all might end this heat. Let's bring in Bill Cairns. Hey, Bill, good morning.
Yeah. I mean, good morning. Yeah, these temperatures have been off the charts. I mean, we hit 100 degrees in Tucson at 8 a.m. yesterday, and today we're going to break records right across the board. Sacramento, once again. Las Vegas will be very close to a record. Lake Havasu City should break the record by 7 degrees. Phoenix up to about 117. So you get the picture here. We have some very hot stuff today. Tomorrow, it's a couple degrees cooler in a few spots, but we're still going to break some records. I mean, look at Salt Lake City, back up into the hundreds, just when you thought your heat wave was over. Now, back to normal. I'll call it about the middle of next week. Notice the plains significantly cool off in areas like Phoenix. We'll go from like 116 to 108, and that's getting a little bit closer back to normal. So for today's forecast, if you want the gorgeous weather, you have to be in the northeast and the northwest. It's pretty hot right across the board from east to west. And then this weekend, we're watching that tropical threat. It looks like a potential for flash flooding and very heavy rain from areas of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama Saturday, and on Sunday, that rain should be over the top of like Atlanta, possibly Charlotte, North Carolina. Keep that in mind for your Father's Day plans, and also a few strong storms in the northern plains. So, yeah, Joe, the heat wave this early in the season, I mean, it just makes you wonder what's coming as we head towards the peak of the summer season.
Yeah, it could be a long summer. All right, Bill, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend. July 4th is a little over 2 weeks away, and it's looking less likely that the country is going to reach President Biden's goal of getting 70% of adults vaccinated. As the vaccine campaign pushes forward, the government is also spending big on antiviral medicine, pills we might one day take at home to treat the coronavirus and maybe potentially prevent another pandemic. NBC News correspondent Tom Costello is covering that and other headlines this morning. Hey, Tom, good morning.
Hey, Joe, happy Friday to you. But you're right, the pace of vaccinations has slowed. That's really concerning. The states with the most vaccination rates, the highest, I should say, of the new COVID cases in the U.S. The good news, the CDC says current vaccines do appear to offer protection against the variant.
This is why we are pushing so hard to get more Americans vaccinated.
Meanwhile, concerns about a potentially rare side effect with those life-saving messenger RNA vaccines made by Pfizer and Moderna. The CDC now planning to evaluate cases of inflammation of the heart muscle and surrounding tissue in adolescents and young adults. 300 cases out of 20 million vaccinations.
These cases are rare.
Also this morning, the White House and NIH say they'll spend $3.2 billion to develop new antiviral over-the-counter pills to treat COVID and future viruses at home. Now, with just 2 weeks till the July 4th weekend, the president's goal of vaccinating 70% of the public in time for fireworks looks less likely. While 62% of those 12 and older have received at least one shot, the pace of vaccinations has slowed as states open up.
We're going to continue to push vaccination beyond the 4th of July into the summers.
That ball is hammered.
And while Americans are resuming their pre-pandemic routines, those working from home appear in no rush to return to work. A 10-city average finds only 31% of workers have returned to their offices. Dallas had the most at nearly 50%. San Francisco had only about 18% return. But many companies want employees to be fully vaccinated, and new data suggests 10% of people have missed their second shots. Yeah, it's about 18 million people. The CDC director, Dr. Walensky, is now saying she expects that this variant, the Delta variant we've been talking about, it will become the dominant variant across the country in just a couple of months or so. And that really is concerning. Joe, I don't know about you. I've talked to people recently who are refusing to get a vaccine, and some of them are saying they think it's going to scramble your DNA. They think they're going to track you with this vaccine. It's all utter nonsense, and this is the best way, of course, to make sure that you and your family are safe. Back to you.
Yeah, and it's hard to figure out how you deal with all those conspiracy theories, convincing people otherwise. It might just take time. All right, Tom, thanks so much. Appreciate your reporting.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court rejected a legal challenge to Obamacare, keeping the Affordable Care Act alive for the roughly 30 million Americans who depend on it. In a 7-2 vote, the court upheld President Obama's landmark legislation. 18 Republican-led states were hoping to overturn the law by taking aim at the individual mandate, which essentially requires all Americans to subscribe to some form of health insurance. Justices appointed by former President Trump were split on the decision. Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett both sided with the majority opinion, while Justice Neil Gorsuch dissented. Now, Speaker Nancy Pelosi applauded the court's ruling.
Today's Supreme Court decision is a landmark victory for Democrats' work to defend protections for people with pre-existing conditions.
Let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Haake, who has a look at really what this means for the future of healthcare policy in Washington. Garrett, we spent the last 10 years discussing Obamacare, but maybe now time to look forward. We know Democrats are taking a victory lap. They're looking to expand the Affordable Care Act by adding a public option or expanding Medicare. How could all that play out?
Well, Democrats are going to try to move quickly to see if they can put any healthcare changes into what should be this reconciliation bill they're working on that's ostensibly about infrastructure, but is really about all of their big priorities that they can try to get done with just 50 Democratic votes in the Senate. And there is some disagreement among Democrats about what's the best path to try to continue to expand coverage for more Americans. There's a debate about whether the best way to do that is to try to lower the Medicare eligibility age down to perhaps 60 years old, or to try to put in place a public option, a government-run healthcare plan that you could choose to buy into. That's something that President Biden ran on, although it's a little bit more difficult to create and implement, especially in the timetable that Democrats are working on. But what's pretty clear is the era of repeal and replace is over, and Democrats are scrambling to try to build on the legacy of the Affordable Care Act.
Garrett, Democrats are also looking to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. So first of all, explain how that would work, and do Democrats have enough bipartisan support to get that over the finish line?
They might. Both parties actually agree on the issue of prescription drug prices being too high. The question is, how do you bring them down? And one of the ideas that's been out there for a while is use the power of the federal government, the muscle of Medicare, which is going to be buying more prescription drugs than anybody else ever could, and any other combination of entities ever could, and let Medicare negotiate directly with the drug companies so that they can get a more favorable price because they're buying in such volume, the theory goes. That would bring prices down for everyone. How you do this is important to try to find that kind of magical combination to get to 60 votes, in particular in the Senate. But there is bipartisan interest, at least in this issue as a concept. We'll see if it can translate into bipartisan support for it as legislation.
And Garrett, Republicans' healthcare policy has largely been centered for a long time now on repealing the Affordable Care Act or scrapping it in any way they can. So what does their strategy look like now? Are they ready to move on?
This is like a bad breakup for Republicans, Joe. This was an issue that never loved them back. Repeal and replace has been part of Republican orthodoxy for basically as long as I've been covering politics. But walking around on Capitol Hill yesterday, talking to Republican senators in particular, they understand that this is not going to happen now. This law is baked into the American economy. It's baked into how people expect to get their health care. And they're trying to figure out now what they can be for. So I think we're going to see this fight probably play out in the midterms, and maybe more interestingly in the Republican presidential race of 2024 to figure out what Republican healthcare policy even looks like going forward.
All right. Garrett Haake, thanks so much. Appreciate it. This morning, police in Arizona are investigating a series of shootings that left one person dead and a dozen others injured. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson joins us now from Glendale, Arizona. Steve, what are you learning?
Yeah, Joe, good morning. Police saying the shooting happened late yesterday morning. A gunman taking aim and shooting wildly at people across 3 separate cities this morning. Police saying a suspect is in custody and the FBI has now been called in to investigate.
This morning, police say a suspect is behind bars after a shooting spree outside of Phoenix. And caught on camera, a man arrested outside a nearby shopping center. Police not yet confirming if the video shows the suspect.
Multiple shootings, same victims scattered through several jurisdictions.
Officials say the first shots rang out just after 11 a.m. and continued through several cities over the course of more than an hour.
There's 8 different scenes that we have to investigate. That's a lot.
The victims scattered across the West Valley area, 13 in all, 4 shot, 1 fatally. Officials say that person was found in a car off a local highway. The others suffering broken glass and shrapnel injuries related to the shootings. Witnesses reported seeing a lone gunman driving a white SUV, firing wildly at people.
There were 2 more shooting victims off of 303.
Police located and arrested the suspect some 90 minutes after the shooting rampage began. Investigators say a weapon was found at the scene. Officials say there was not more than 1 shooter and that there's no reason for the public to feel unsafe.
So Banner Health, the health system behind me, says they've taken in 9 separate victims across 3 of their area hospitals just from this one shooting. Meanwhile, investigators are obviously searching for a reason why, searching for a motive. Joe?
All right, Steve Patterson. Steve, thanks so much. Tomorrow marks a new federal holiday commemorating the end of slavery in the U.S. On Thursday, President Biden signed a law establishing June 19th as Juneteenth National Independence Day. NBC News White House correspondent Jeff Bennett brings us reaction from the Capitol.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Juneteenth is the first new federal holiday since MLK Day almost 40 years ago. The day commemorates June 19th, 1865, when Union soldiers brought the news of freedom to enslaved black people in Texas more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation freed slaves in the southern states. Now, President Biden says Juneteenth should be celebrated as a day of reflection, commitment, and action.
This morning, there's a new federal holiday, Juneteenth. President Biden calling it one of the greatest honors of his presidency after signing the bill Thursday.
This is a day of profound, in my view, profound weight and profound power. A day in which we remember the moral stain.
Juneteenth celebrates the end of slavery in the United States and commemorates June 19, 1865, when Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and informed enslaved African Americans that the Civil War had ended and they were free.
We must learn from our history, and we must teach our children our history.
This week, Congress passed legislation making Juneteenth the first new federal holiday since Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day was created in 1983. With unusual speed for the federal government, it goes into effect right away, today. Some public schools quickly announced closures, and most federal workers got Friday off, with some states still working to adjust. The movement to make Juneteenth a federal holiday grew stronger after the year of national protests over race. In Congress, it was passed unanimously in the Senate, with the only no votes coming from 14 House Republicans.
My hope is that this is used as an opportunity for teachers to teach about this in their classrooms.
Guests at Thursday's bill signing ceremony included celebrities, members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and 94-year-old Miss Opal Lee, a decades-long activist to see Juneteenth recognized nationally.
She's made it her mission to see that this day came.
A mission now complete.
And President Biden says Juneteenth doesn't just celebrate the past, it calls for action today. The president singling out voting rights as one area for action, police reform being another. But yesterday was quite a moment for Ms. Opal Lee, who for years led walking campaigns and marches across the country to raise awareness about Juneteenth. She said she was thinking that surely somebody would see a little old lady in tennis shoes trying to get Congress to notice and pay attention. And that appears to be exactly what happened. Joe?
Concern is growing this morning in Missouri, where the aggressive Delta variant of the coronavirus has been detected in sewage systems across the state. NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber joins us now from Brookfield, Missouri. So Ellison, scientists there say what they found in the wastewater is a clear sign the virus is spreading fast. Tell us more exactly about how this works, what testing they're doing, and what the results show.
Hey, Joe. Yeah, so specifically the Delta variant is the one that they say they're seeing spread really quickly in this state. The University of Missouri is working with the state health department to test wastewater that comes from water treatment facilities just like this one all across the state. They are pulling the wastewater as soon as it comes in and then sending it to labs over in Columbia, Missouri, where the university is located. They then go through that waste sample. They break it down to not only see if COVID-19 is detected in communities' wastewater treatment facilities, but also to identify the exact variants.
It's just a much more comprehensive way of studying the spread of the virus. When you rely on human testing, you're relying on people that got tested, have access to healthcare and whatnot. Our system will tell you about an entire city without any bias for anything. As long as you use the sewer system, we will detect it.
So this water treatment facility plant in Brookfield, Missouri was one of the first water treatment plants where they identified the Delta variant. They were the second one actually to have it identified. There was one point here where they didn't detect COVID-19 in the wastewater in this community at all towards the end of April. And then in mid-May, they started to see it detecting here. They started to see their cases spike and some more people hospitalized. All of those people hospitalized were people who were unvaccinated. But they say when they detect it in wastewater within days, they can see it sort of peak and know what's coming within the community.
Wow,
Joe?
that is fascinating. Let's talk more about vaccinations, because there in Missouri, a majority of the population has not received the COVID vaccine yet. How might that impact the kinds of cases they're seeing right now?
Yeah, so when you're looking at the results that they are getting from just testing wastewater, which this is something they've been doing throughout the pandemic, but again, it's kind of become more relevant and sort of eye-opening, eyebrow-raising, if you will, as they've seen this Delta variant, because what they're seeing with this particular variant is that it is showing up, or at least initially it was really showing up in smaller, more rural communities. They saw it first in mid-May on May 10th in Branson, Missouri. Then they saw it here in Brookfield. These are both cities that don't have enormous population sizes. They are smaller, they are a little bit more rural, but they also don't have particularly high vaccination rates. This county where we are, only about 31% of the people who live here have been fully vaccinated. So what experts are telling us is that they're using this information, and what they're seeing and what is concerning is that this variant that is more contagious is spreading incredibly quickly, and that it is spreading really fast in these smaller rural areas where they don't have as high of vaccination rates. Listen to more of what one health official from this county told us.
With the variants, it's always a concern that as long as you have the unvaccinated population, you're going to have those peaks and valleys. And with those peaks and valleys come, the very real possibility of hospitalizations and deaths. And so I think that's something our community needs to take into consideration.
And she says the hope of identifying and telling people that they see the Delta variant in their wastewater not only makes them aware and gives local other leaders a kind of blueprint plan, the knowledge to move forward in a proactive way to try and protect their community, but that it also makes people who are still unvaccinated at this point pause and think twice about maybe going and getting vaccinated. They say the people that they're seeing in the hospitals with this variant, they are younger people. And again, all of them are unvaccinated.
So Ellison, quickly, what are you hearing from people about why they're not getting vaccinated?
Yeah, we've asked people that question in states with low vaccination rates across the country, from Mississippi to Alabama to here, and kind of the answers sort of are the same. It varies from people who are hesitant and nervous because they feel like they just want to know a little bit more. But it also goes all the way to people who are leaning towards conspiracy theories. And what we've heard from officials consistently in all of those states, and what we're hearing from them here, is they say that the vaccine is readily available, but the problem is misinformation. And they're really facing an uphill battle trying to combat that, because a lot of people are just getting inaccurate information about the vaccines on the internet. Joe?
Hearing that all over the country. All right, Ellison, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Coming up, get ready to book your flight to Europe. The EU is finally allowing American travelers back in, but what you need to know before you plan that trip, that's next.
Are you ready?
Monday boost.
Are you ready for a boost?
How do you feel about that book?
We love those nurses. That was beautiful.
You like that? That's really
Isn't that good?
Slice this against the grain.
I'm going to put some bok choy in now.
That looks delicious. Cool, huh?
Wow.
Our world is facing some big challenges. Chuck Todd breaks them down. Every Thursday, a deep dive into a new topic.
Instead of covering all the big stories, we're going to cover one single subject impacting American politics.
Exploring and explaining the critical issues that affect our future. Meet the Press Reports. Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Streaming on NBC News Now. And available next day on demand on Peacock. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
I'm rolling up my sleeves for my 93-year-old dad. And now it's your turn. Roll up your sleeves, America, and plan your vaccine, because every shot counts. Visit planyourvaccine.com and make your plan.
Right now on NBC News Now.
They've done things like installing cameras to help alert Border Patrol to people crossing. They are escaping a number of conditions there, violence and persecution in their home countries.
The Meet the Press Chuck Todd Cast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Girls 5 Eva has a little heat. I feel weird. Is it a mini stroke? No, it's joy. We have songs. We have buzz. Yes. I've had 3 Negronis. Did you just whisper Negronis? I don't know the history of the word. I was thinking of adding a whoa right before cram it wherever. My DMs are filthy. I can't even open them up on the train.
So what are you waiting? 5 girls, 5 Eva.
Right now on NBC News Now.
They are escaping a number of conditions there, violence and persecution in their home countries. They are speaking out against laws that they feel would make it harder for Texas voters to cast their ballot.
There's excitement that we are now turning the corner. We heard the mask mandate and mask guidance coming from the CDC earlier today.
We have a team of correspondents covering this breaking story for us today.
Ready actors. An indie horror film, a talented young actress, and a deadly shot. Dateline's newest podcast, Killer Roll.
Action!
Subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts.
It has been a long year. Yeah, where it's been anything but normal.
Well, now there's hope. The COVID vaccines.
I know. It's been a little confusing.
Like really confusing. So it's more important than ever to make a plan. Visit planyourvaccine.com
to find out where and when to get your vaccine.
What are you waiting for? Roll up your sleeves and plan your vaccine.
Plan your vaccine.
Plan your vaccine.
Big news from the world of tennis this morning. 23-year-old star Naomi Osaka announced she's pulling out of Wimbledon to take personal time ahead of the Tokyo Olympic Games. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson joins us with more. Ann, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. You know, Naomi Osaka has really had a rough go of it in the last couple of weeks. You'll remember that last month she exited the French Open, citing mental health struggles and the desire to protect her well-being. Well, this morning we actually have some good news about Naomi Osaka. Her fans will get to see her on the court once again this summer, but this time at the Tokyo Games. This morning, tennis superstar Naomi Osaka pulling out of a second Grand Slam. An agent for the world number 2 issuing a statement Thursday reading, Naomi won't be playing Wimbledon this year. She's taking some personal time with friends and family. She will be ready for the Olympics and is excited to play in front of her home fans. Wimbledon responding in a tweet, you will be greatly missed, Naomi Osaka, wishing you all the best at home and the Olympics, and hope to welcome you back next year. This follows a tumultuous few weeks for the 23-year-old. She refused to speak to the media at the French Open, citing negative questions. That led to a $15,000 fine for skipping a mandatory press conference. She was then threatened with harsher penalties and ultimately withdrew from the tournament after her first-round match. Osaka revealed an ongoing battle with anxiety and depression, intensified by her quick rise up the tennis rankings and her headline-grabbing victory over Serena Williams at the 2018 U.S. Open final, describing the moment on Today.
I just felt like everyone was sort of unhappy up there, and I know that it wasn't really like the ending wasn't how people wanted it to be. I just felt very emotional, and I felt like I had to apologize.
Shortly after dropping out of the French Open, Osaka posting on social media, "Though the tennis press has always been kind to me, I am not a natural public speaker and get huge waves of anxiety before I speak to the world's media." The decision rallying support from fellow sports stars. Venus Williams writing on Instagram, "So proud of you. Take care of yourself and see you back winning soon." The move igniting a wider debate about athletes and mental health. Olympic gymnast Gabby Douglas recently opening up to USA Today about her own struggles after the 2016 Games.
Being an athlete, we go through so much already, and no one can really understand but that person, but I can definitely relate.
For the tennis star, she's prioritizing what matters most, now confirming she won't be taking to the grass courts when the world's oldest tennis tournament begins play later this month. And there is another big name that is bowing out. Rafa Nadal says he's not going to play Wimbledon or the Olympics. Nadal says he is listening to his body in order to prolong his career and to continue to do what makes him happy. Joe?
At least we can look forward to seeing Naomi in Tokyo. All right, Ann, appreciate that. Thanks so much. Americans are now allowed to travel to the European Union. This morning, the European Council formalized a recommendation that calls on member states to gradually lift travel restrictions for a small group of countries. That includes the United States. NBC News foreign correspondent Claudia Lavanga joins us now from Rome, no doubt one of the destinations many folks want to head to. So, Claudio, this is good news for Americans hoping to travel to Europe this summer. When can we go, and what should we know before booking those tickets?
Well, Joe, my advice is for whoever wants to travel to Europe, and including, of course, Rome or Italy, they should really check the travel advisory and restrictions of each individual country in Europe they want to travel to, because there is no one set rule. Because what you were saying earlier, that the European Council has added the United Nations, the United States, in the list of countries they deem safe to travel from, and also recommended member states, so European countries, to lift travel restrictions for Americans, including, and this is important, those who are not vaccinated, is still a recommendation, which still needs to be upheld by individual European countries. But that, of course, while we expect European countries to uphold that decision, they also can add some conditions individually. One of the conditions that is already there and may remain also for Americans is that they require those traveling from all parts of the world, including the United States, to present a negative COVID test performed just before they board the flight from the US. Some of the countries may even decide to just keep the quarantine for people traveling from the United States and other countries. That's very unlikely, but they can still do that. So my advice is check the travel advisory that will probably be updated for each individual European countries on the basis of what was decided today, Joe.
If the last year has taught us anything, it's that all of these rules are fluid. So what are the chances of the U.S. staying on this safe list? Could the rules change down the road?
Well, they can probably change for the better, because the countries that they make it on this safe travel list, they do that because they have particularly performed well on keeping COVID at bay. So, of course, we know that in the United States, the vaccination campaign is going very well. The contagion is going down. So, essentially, in the future, we expect it to get even better, and that is why we expect the U.S. to stay on that list, and even better for these restrictions to be eased even further in the near future, Joe.
All right, Claudio, thanks so much. Appreciate it. The online retail battle royale kicks off next week. How Amazon's Prime Day could impact online shopping around the world. That's next.
Right now on NBC News Now.
They've done things like installing cameras to help alert Border Patrol to people crossing. They are escaping a number of conditions there, violence and persecution in their home countries.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Right now on NBC News Now.
They are escaping a number of conditions there, violence and persecution in their home countries. They are speaking out against laws that they feel would make it harder for Texas voters to cast their ballot.
There's excitement that we are now turning the corner. We heard the mask mandate and mask guidance coming from the CDC earlier today.
We have a team of correspondents covering this breaking story for us today.
Well, this is a heck of a cast.
Andy Cohen, welcome to the 6-Minute Marathon.
Ridiculous.
The Meet the Press Chuck Todd Cast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
400 years ago, my ancestor founded our town. Anyone see the resemblance? I am the steward of my family's legacy.
And you have a museum.
You're gonna get yours too.
The only native artifacts in here are those bangs.
There's something happening in that town. This is a story about stories.
Damn, the podcasting voice is very manipulative.
Our world is facing some big challenges. Chuck Todd breaks them down. Every Thursday, a deep dive into a new topic.
Instead of covering all the big stories, we're going to cover one single subject impacting American politics.
Exploring and explaining the critical issues that affect our future. Meet the Press Reports. Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Streaming on NBC News Now. And available next day on demand on Peacock.
Amazon's highly anticipated Prime Day is next week. The yearly online shopping event is promising some big deals that are forcing other companies to slash their prices, causing an all-out price war. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock joins us now from Miami with more on the changing world of retail. Sam, good morning.
Here we go. Joe, good morning. You remember those days when people were doing their holiday shopping, over the holidays? This really has changed the game with Amazon Prime. They have 2 million deals this year, which is actually, Joe, over a 2-day period. And it is affecting not just companies with traditional brick-and-mortar stores, but most notably in cyberspace, where retailers like Target, Best Buy, and Walmart now all have competing deal events over the same time frame to get your business.
This year, forget the mania of Black Friday and the rush of Cyber Monday. Prime Day will surpass 2020 Cyber Monday levels, according to research just unveiled by Adobe, spawning a sea change in online retail.
What does it say that Amazon Prime Day is now as big as any of the holiday season shopping events?
They have really created something that has impacted the retail landscape in a big way. They were able to create a lot of spending in a time that used to be pretty quiet, the middle of the summer.
Prime Day's debut in 2015 generated just under $1 billion. Last year, the company raked in more than $10 billion. Retail rivals have taken notice. With Prime Day on June 21st and 22nd, Walmart has deals for days from the 20th to the 23rd. Best Buy's bigger deal event ends the 22nd, as does Target's Deal Days, with prices dipping across the board, from toys and clothes to tablets and air fryers. But Amazon says its 2 million discounts are a record.
We also have more small businesses selling on Prime Day than ever before. In fact, over 1 million deals from small businesses alone.
Some of the new rollouts this year, several episodes of a Prime Day show featuring artists like Billie Eilish and Kid Cudi that are available to stream for everyone. And 4 free months of Amazon Music Unlimited for Prime members, its premium subscription music service. But if consumer products are what you're looking for, experts suggest typing a specific brand or model number into Google's shopping tab, and you'll immediately get a cross-site comparison. This popular Little Tikes smartwatch for kids knocked down from about $55 to $39 on Walmart, Target, and Amazon site. A deals war fueled by the industry's biggest player.
The competition definitely stood up and took notice, and now almost every major retailer you can think of is staging its own sales event.
I love this, where you just didn't see it coming. He picks up a little extra speed.
And as you try and navigate all of these deals this year, Joe, I got a pro tip for you. Web extensions like Camelizer, spelled C-A-M-E-L-I-Z-E-R, like a camel. What that does is goes into your work browser, I should say web browser, and shows you price history. So if you're on Amazon, you can see if the price had gone up right before this and then was cut. So it creates the impression you have a better deal maybe than you're actually getting. Great tools for consumers. Have a great weekend. And of course, fantastic Father's Day. Joe, back to you.
And a happy Prime Day as well. All right, Sam Brock, thanks so much. Good tips. Appreciate it. Coming up, the restaurant business has been reeling since the start of the pandemic. More than 100,000 establishments shuttered since last March, and that's impacted millions of jobs. But now, even as the country returns to normal, restaurants can't find enough workers to hire. More about what's behind the shortage next.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready for a boost?
How do you feel about that book?
We love those nurses. That was beautiful.
Excuse me.
You like that? That's really
Isn't that good?
Slice this against the grain.
I'm going to put some bok choy in now.
That looks delicious. Cool, huh?
Wow.
Our world is facing some big challenges. Chuck Todd breaks them down. Every Thursday, a deep dive into a new topic.
Instead of covering all the big stories, we're going to cover one single subject impacting American politics.
Exploring and explaining the critical issues that affect our future. Meet the Press Reports. Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Streaming on NBC News Now and available next day on demand on Peacock. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
I'm rolling up my sleeves for my 93-year-old dad. And now it's your turn. Roll up your sleeves, America, and plan your vaccine, because every shot counts. Visit planyourvaccine.com.
Welcome back to the Jeep Surfetch Pro, presented
right now
by
on NBC News Now.
On-demand.
They've done things like installing cameras to help alert Border Patrol to people crossing. They are escaping a number of conditions there of violence and persecution.
Has to be considered a big threat to take out this event.
100% standout here at the ranch, you know, and he's showcasing a little different type of surfboard, the Dark Guard surfboard, which is an epoxy design, so it's going to have that extra zest, and you can see putting that to use right here on this wave.
Yeah, these Dark Guard boards have so much pop on the train, so much drive down the line. And as you can see here, every little detail, every subtle movement that he's making with his feet, the board is reacting. So
right now on NBC News Now,
they are escaping a number of conditions there, violence and persecution in their home countries. They are speaking out against laws that they feel would make it harder for Texas voters to cast their ballot.
There's excitement that we are now turning the corner. We heard the mask mandate and mask guidance coming from the CDC earlier today.
We have a team of correspondents.
Basically, because of
Subscribe
the
for
form
free
inside that
wherever you get your
surfboard, which is
podcasts.
styrofoam, so it reacts to energy very, very quickly. You know, it doesn't have a dampening effect, so it reacts just like your little quick muscles. It's going to go straight to that surfboard and straight into the lip.
It's literally,
It has been a long year, where it's been anything but normal.
Well, now there's hope. The COVID vaccine.
I know. It's been a little confusing.
like
It's
really
so specialized.
So it's
Love
more
that,
important than
little point difference in the barrel. And then that innovation progression part of it, he's got that nose pick. That was a nice lower one, just a high completion rate on his first wave, but he showcased some sort of innovation and progression. Trying to get 2 tubes out of the 1 tube section, again. He's also loves to go high risk.
Big smile there from Canoa, and this guy's got to be smiling as well after his last wave. Miguel Pupo is with Kaipo Guerrero.
Thank you, Chris. Miguel, 6.6 on the left. Great job on the left. Right, you're going to have to clean up a little bit. How are you going to do that?
Just surf with more calm, I think. Kind of mistimed the last turn before the barrel and got too excited to get in the barrel too early. And just clean that up and make a better lap for sure.
I noticed that you have a De Souza jersey on. Can you tell us more about that?
As we're not having Brazil this year, we're all bummed about that. So we're going to surf with his jersey right here to celebrate, everything he has done for us and for the sport, and especially for Brazil. And he's a world champion. He deserves it for sure.
Thanks for the time, and we'll see you again.
See ya.
Classy moves right there from our Brazilian contingent, representing Adriano de Souza, who is on his ultimate retirement victory lap right now around the world.
Gets to do it for a year. It's solid, right?
I'm gonna miss ADS on tour. He's such a fighter, a grinder. I love to watch him.
Yeah, no, it's every heat, right? And you're gonna like to watch him in this event. He's a standout. He could easily walk away with the title.
What I love here from Kanoa Igarashi is how calm he looks, how ready he looks for this wave.
An energy efficiency thing you have to carry here, especially when we're going to be dealing with the heat. The National Weather Service has called for a high heat warning, which means that we're going to see above 100 temps in the middle of the day here today. So you got to manage that energy.
Well, Kanoa's first wave come through at 7.83. So the highest single wave score of the day. What does he have for us on his back end? Again, just the Black Beauty underneath his feet, that Dark Arts sharp-eyed board looking so stellar on these waves. And this basin can be slightly wind affected on its day, but today it is sheet glass. And these surfers right now are having to harness the excitement. That's right there. We could see another incredible combination. It is big snap, fin free into the tube to the backside whip. Kanoa Igarashi proving us right when we said he is a surfer to watch, to go very far, if not win this entire contest.
Yeah, he wants to get into that top 5. He's going to have to showcase himself at least a top 2 finish here. I mean, that's definitely what he needs. That's what he wants. He knows this event is a place that he can do it. Again, just by showcasing this left. And you love that he's doing this at the very end of his run. He's gone right already, all the way to the end. He came all the way back. But the best part of this wave was that transition going into the barrel. But he did some work right here, too. He definitely, when that wave starts to come and speed up, look, nice flow here. Chases it, quick little whip bottom turns to skid out in front again. You don't want to get left behind right here. Oh, no, he's too deep. Nope, he's right into it, slotted. And it made him nice and deep on this barrel. And then why not just get a little tail whip to finish?
Right here, this is so on the razor's edge, and that area that would take 99% of us out.
You're gone, right? And then right there, look, it tucked right underneath it.
That was so cool.
Super cool.
Okay, now we have
another
a replacement for our previous wow moment by Miguel Pupo. Kind of a similar setup. That was cool.
I was a little surprised by the score from Miguel Pupo, though. It came in under Conor O'Leary's. I felt like it was a little bit better, but judges have it a little different.
All right, so the judges reacting now to Kanoa Igarashi's last incredible wave. We're going to learn a little bit more about Griffin Colapinto, who's becoming a veteran and an absolute title threat. Here he is, the one and only Griffin Colapinto.
The most meaningful thing surfing's brought to me is a purpose in life and something to do every day and something to strive for. I'm more focused on competing, but I'm also just as focused